Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got a very special guest to chat a bit about the Arsenal women's team, and because they'll be back very soon against Spurs. And I thought bring on a special guest. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. I'm doing very, very well. I'm super excited we were just saying off air there how excited we are to finally talk to people, because we both had a similar experience we were talking about kind of at the start of our podcasting journeys or whatever, speaking to people and them kind of getting fed up. So it's nice to be in the company of people who have similar interests for a change.
Yeah, it is so nice, isn't it? Because I just think me and you could talk all day about the women's
Yeah.
team. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I did want to start off by your thoughts just about the season. Obviously, we are in the international break at the moment, and I'm pretty sure we play on Sunday against Spurs, which will be a really good game. And for me, I've noticed like there has been some really good moments. There's been some difficult moments, especially at the start of the
Mhm.
season. Just talk to me a bit about how you're feeling regarding the season.
Yeah, I have to be honest and say I think it's been a great season so far. Maybe not so much from the perspective of being an Arsenal fan, but I think
Mm.
as let's say a neutral of women's football, it's been an incredible season so far. There's been so many twists and turns throughout. Even before the season even started with Champions League upsets and things like that. So I think, in one sense, it's really great to see the game growing in that it's a bit more open in the leagues. More teams are getting a chance to compete at the higher levels in Europe, for example. From an Arsenal perspective, as you said, there's been plenty of ups and downs. I think the result against United just before the international break, and then obviously City beating Chelsea as well, has kind of opened things back up. Um, yeah, so I wouldn't say it's been too negative yet. Let's not
Yeah.
get ahead of ourselves, that kind of way. Ups and downs, of course, but I think overall, I think it's a credit to how the women's game is growing, that is becoming more open, and that one team isn't dominating as Arsenal have done for so long.
Yeah, it's getting really competitive because, like,
Absolutely.
especially this season, it's not just, Man City, Chelsea, there's also us in the mix. And I know it has a lot of the time always been us three. And I think for me, United, I think, I do think they'll be there soon. I just think they need to probably invest more. And obviously, we do have more of the money to spend. So that's just how it does work. But I'm really impressed. I mean, I think Tottenham have done well this season. I think Liverpool as well. I
Yeah.
think it shows you, like, there were times where we could really turn Spurs over, and I still feel like we still have that in us. But it just shows you that Spurs have really, gotten better. They've improved, and I think it really makes the women's game a lot better. So I feel quite optimistic about it. And obviously, with the league, it is quite tight at the moment, and in women's football, you can't really lose a lot of games, especially in the
Yeah.
WSL. And we've lost a few, but we have done really good overall, like you said. And
Mhm.
for you, regarding the league, like, how are you feeling about that? Because we probably don't have many games left, and we know Man City and Chelsea are doing really well. Do you
Mhm.
feel optimistic that we've still got a chance to win it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the way I look at it, as you mentioned there, we've had 3 losses already, and statistically, a team that have lost 3 games in a season have never gone on to win it. However,
Yeah,
in saying that, Chelsea are sitting on 2 losses, City are sitting on 2 losses, and we still have to face both City and Chelsea. Um, I think we've 9 games left, so we still have a chance.
yeah,
I'm remaining positive with it because I think we actually have put on really good performances against, let's say, the teams that are higher up in the table. So
yeah.
I'm thinking City, United as well, and Chelsea. I mean, the game against Chelsea prior to Christmas was incredible. It really wasn't a game that I expected to walk away from winning 4-1. So I am optimistic. I think the big challenge for us this season is overcoming the low block, because that's really cost us in the games that we've lost. They've been really, really tight games. We've lost 1-0 or by 1 goal. And yeah, I think that the low block is really what's causing us the most issues this season. And, like I said, we have 2 games coming up that could potentially get us back in the running if we beat City, if we beat Chelsea. Then we go level on points with them if every team goes on to win the rest of the remaining games. Um, but I wouldn't feel too confident yet against the team sitting lower than us, because I do feel as though the code has been cracked a bit on how to go and play against the Arsenal women's team. You keep that low block, you keep really, really tight, well organized at the back, and that is what's really causing a lot of issues for us so far. And I don't think it's an issue of us not being able to deal with it, but I think it's a bit of lack of creativity or tactical adaptation at times. But yeah, I think the opportunity is absolutely there for us to go on and cause a massive headache to City and Chelsea, who are sitting above us at the moment, for sure.
Yeah, it is tough, like you said, and I think we've still got. I'm trying to think who else we've still got to play. I mean, I think with our games, I do feel quite optimistic. Like you said, the big teams we're good at. I know Man City. I think for me, it was one of those games where we just had the ball so many times and we just couldn't score. It was a really frustrating game, but I do think we are a lot better against the bigger teams. And like someone said, Victor said here, like it's the smaller teams that we struggle with. Like the West Ham game for me, it was really really frustrating because you do look at the table and you think the squad we
Mhm.
have, the squad they have, we realistically we should be beating them. And for me, those are the games we've really got to win. Because the other top four teams or top six teams, it is, we do well on them. Like United, I think we did excellent in. I think I didn't
Mhm.
expect us to win by that many goals, and it was a really impressive performance for us. So I do feel like, yeah, we're doing good, but I think we shouldn't write ourselves off for the league because anything can happen. So I do still feel hopeful about that. Ryan said the fact the Arsenal games this season at the Emirates has been breaking record attendances and Sunday is close to breaking record again backs me up the demand for women's footballers there. For you, like with these big crowds, like I know for me, growing up watching like the Arsenal women team, we never really got that many crowds, and we've only started playing at the Emirates. Like, how does it make you feel to see us, breaking these type of records?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely incredible. I love it. I think, the statistic came out during the week that the Arsenal women's team have a higher attendance on average this season than I believe 9 other Premier League teams, which is crazy when you think about it. The demand's definitely there. I think, on one hand, the demand for women's football is there, but I think credit really needs to be given to Arsenal. They've created a really positive environment. They've really invested in the women's game. They've taken the chances. You look at Chelsea, for example, they're top of the league. They've won 4 consecutive WSL titles. They're the only English team in Champions League, and I really feel like they're not pushing the women's game in the same way that Arsenal are. But yeah, as a fan, as a woman who loves football, it's so incredible to see. And as you said, the comparison to even a few years ago where the women's game was at is magic to see. It's really, really impressive. I actually went to the first game of the season against Liverpool. Obviously, it wasn't the result that we wanted, but seeing such a packed Emirates Stadium, it was just incredible and definitely an experience I won't forget. And hopefully there's many more in the future. But yeah, the demand is there because, people are buying into the story of the women's game. And it quite simply goes to the credit of Arsenal, I would say, just being able to build a story around the women's football and be able to push it in a really positive manner, because I don't think people really see it anymore as being, oh, it's just the women's team. It's
Yeah.
another really credible team that Arsenal have produced. And yeah, I think it's credit to the club. There's a really positive atmosphere throughout. I think all teams, the men's team, the women's team, the underage teams, it seems to be a really positive environment, not just for the players, for the backstop, but for the fans as well. So I think where we're at the moment is so much further than other teams in terms of attracting those big crowds, purely based on, how much investment, how much belief has been given to the women's game. And I love to see it, obviously.
Yeah, it is really good, and I do feel like we are that team in WSL that are really good at getting those type of numbers. And for me, like I've noticed, like say with like Chelsea, as an example, do you think like for me, because obviously they're not probably getting the attendance that they want and they deserve, because Chelsea actually are a really good side and have been so successful. And for you, like, is there anything they should do better to get that attendance up? Because I know with us, like, we're quite good at promoting our games online, or you might see it in London on, things. So do you think there's anything else they can do to promote it better?
That's a really good question. To be honest, like I don't know in depth how much the Chelsea team are pushed, internally
Yeah.
within the as a fan base or whatever. Because I do see, for example, with the Arsenal team, you see it an awful lot being pushed on the men's or the general Arsenal page. It's often that you get women's football news there as well, which I love to see. What I think potentially leads into that is in terms of Arsenal. Sorry, I hear something playing here. What I that's the problem with the live streams. What I do think potentially benefits Arsenal is, you know, the success of the Lionesses after the Euros 2022. Beth Mead obviously being player of the tournament, Lee Williamson captaining it. So I think there, you know, what's really great about the Arsenal team is that there is a general interest from women's football fans in England. I mean, everywhere. I watched it as well, and I'm obviously not English, but I was really behind the Lionesses because I felt there was really good push behind them. It was, you know, again, it goes back to the storytelling of football. It was a really believable story. Everyone wanted to get behind them. So I think maybe Chelsea could do a little bit more. Again, I can't really speak on what they're doing right now, but I think what they could potentially do more is, you know, they have some amazing players, Sam Kerr, Millie Bright as well, obviously captain at the World Cup last summer. And I just don't really feel like they're connecting potentially new fans coming in who are on the back of watching women's football, seeing these players, you know, who want to buy and invest into their story, invest into their careers, watch them week in, week out. Maybe they're not really doing enough to connect there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think with the Euros, I definitely think that really helped us because, like you said, you know, Beth Mead being in the squad and doing so well. And I think Leah Williamson as well, I think she just blew up and they all got this credit and love for the, you know, for how good they were. I think us winning it obviously really changed things. People viewed women's football differently. And, you know, McCabe as well for Ireland, she did really well in the World Cup. So I think that's another thing as well we're starting to see. Because there is a lot of support for McCabe out there, and I just feel like women's football is going to keep growing and growing. And like you said, you know, people don't look at it as the women's team; they just look at it as like one club, especially at the Emirates. That's how it's treated, and I think it's really good to see us, you know, play a lot of games at the Emirates, and I think this team really deserves that. And like we spoke about at the start of the season, though you were at the Liverpool game, like you said, we did struggle in that game, and we have had a few, you know, the Villa game. Obviously, we did come back and win it, but when I was watching it start off with, I was worrying whether this team was struggling to gel a bit because we have got a lot of, you know, new players. I know Leslie Russo's come in, and I know a lot of players like Pullover started to get more game time this season, and she's doing really well. I know Beth Mead made a return as well, but do you think that it's just taking the team a bit longer to gel because we've got a few new players in?
Absolutely. I think the start of the season, we need to remember as well, you know, there was players coming back from injury, a lot of new players coming in, like you mentioned. I think that's a really, really good point. And then also, you know, it was so quick after the Olympics as well. Sorry, not the Olympics, the World Cup in Australia. And, you know, we were back playing, I know it technically wasn't the start of the season, but to qualify for Champions League, we were back playing, I think it was 14 days after. A lot of the players had returned from either being in the final or being in the fourth place playoffs as well. So there was not a lot of time for the players to come back in to recuperate, to have a bit of a break. So I think there was an element of fatigue, an element of trying to gel, trying to find the best informed players as well, for sure. I think that's something that we might have struggled with throughout the season. And yeah, like you said, just new players coming in. It was a really, really successful summer transfer window, I would say. We probably could have benefited from another month of preseason training, getting up to terms, you know, recovering after a very hectic summer. You know, it was a long season last season as well for a lot of the players who were fit because, you know, the team was so decimated with injuries that it was the same players playing week in, week out, and the bench was fairly weak looking. So, you know, all these factors contribute to maybe a slower start at the beginning of the season. Again, when we look at that, I think, like you said, that Aston Villa game was crazy, but we did manage to find a way through, thankfully, getting a very last-minute equaliser against United as well in the second game. So it did take a bit of time for things to start ticking over. But looking back now, I don't think it was as bad as many people maybe remember it to be, if you know what I mean. Because, you know, I remember coming away from the first Liverpool game going, oh God, like, it's tragic. We're out of the title race already. And then a draw against United, you know, we had 1 point, 2 games in, and then slowly the results started to come in and we started to crawl up the table. But the games themselves maybe weren't the most convincing, although we were getting the results, the performances. Again, it was against the low block, you know, we were leaving it late to score, or we were conceding silly goals when we were completely dominating the performance and then kind of scraping by with 1 or 2 goal leads. hasn't been very comfortable this season, I would say, for Arsenal. But again, the most important things are the results, and currently, we're not that far off the top. And yeah, we're still very much in the title race, I'd like to believe. So yeah, it has been an interesting start to the season. I think the points that you made there are exactly the reason why it was such a slow start. But again, I don't think it is as bad as many people made it out to be.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of fans just panicked at the start because, like, we obviously know there are the teams we should be beating and the teams that we might struggle. I know Chelsea is always one, and Man City are always games that is hard to compete in. I know in recent seasons that we probably haven't been able to compete, and I do think Jonas for me has been a breath of fresh air, and I did want to ask you a bit about him because it is a difficult one, because I do think there are times when managers do need to hold a bit of responsibility if they do if they make mistakes. But I know he has had a lot of criticism of fans. And no, last season for me, I think he really inspired me of how he dealt with everything, and to have had so many injuries, it just doesn't feel real. Like, it was probably all of our best players as well it happened to, and we still managed to win a cup, and I think that's so incredible. But for you, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Jonas and whether or not you think the criticism he gets is reasonable, or if it's a bit, you don't agree with it.
Yeah, I think you made really good points there again. I think last season I was so impressed by how he kind of got the team going. It was a really, really difficult time. The injuries that we got, our best players 100% and all over the pitch, not just, we've lost our best defender, we lost our best defender, our best striker, our best winger, it was crazy. In terms of this season, I'm a little bit on the fence because there are games that we're playing and we play very, very, very well. Playing against, Chelsea, United, those games in particular at the Emirates, they're incredible examples of how dominant we can be, how we can really, and, there was some really clever tactical moves in those games, playing Katie McCabe at right back. I think in the United game, it was more of a needs must kind of thing with Fox being away with the US national team, but her up against Lauren James was, I thought, a stroke of genius. Two very feisty players, and she was able to keep her quiet. But then on the other hand, those games against, and with all due respect, maybe the lesser teams, the teams that we should be beating, West Ham in particular, there's games that I watch and I think, okay, this game requires a bit more in-game management, maybe a bit of a tactical shift. Maybe we can bring on a player from the bench, because we have that luxury now this season that we have so much talent on the bench that can really come in and change the game around. So I think, obviously I'm not half as qualified as he is, but my opinion on it would be, I think in-game management could maybe be looked at, changing things up when, the preset tactics aren't working. So up against the low blocks, I do feel like there's plan A and there's not really a plan B, C or D. And I think that's something that could definitely be looked at. Another thing as well is probably the goalkeeping situation. And I don't really want to be too negative about this, because I think, some of the things that are said online about the goalkeeping situation are horrible. So I'm going to try and be as diplomatic as possible. I do think we probably should be looking into getting a new keeper. And extending Zinsberger's contract when we were linked to Earps, it kind of solidified to me that we probably aren't going to be getting a new keeper. And I'm not really 100% sure how I feel about that. Again, I don't really know how much say he has in that. Maybe it's to do with wages, maybe it's to do with this, that, the other. However, I think there are a few glaring issues that, he has come under criticism for. I suppose it depends how the season ends, how we do in the league, how we do in the Conti Cup. If we can get another cup this season, I think that would be great. It would probably alleviate some of the pressure that he's under. But there are definitely elements that I think need to be looked at. When was the last time we won a league? I believe it was 2018-19. It's a long time ago. Arsenal are statistically the best team in England. We shouldn't really be, giving Chelsea or City the chance to run on ahead and get too many without us, being in the fight and being up there. Obviously, there's seasons that we've been really, really close. But I think, this season's going to be very telling, I think. And they're my two biggest really concerns with Jonas at the moment. But again, like you said, I have more respect and admiration for him than I do critique. So I think it's okay overall.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like we've done really well in the top teams. Like I think my
Mhm.
worry is like when we were playing West Ham, the players we have more than enough like quality to win it. I know obviously Leah Williamson has picked up an injury, I know Viv as well. But with what we have, we really should be winning them. And I think my worry in those games is that when things aren't going our way, like you said about the plan B, I do feel like we don't really have a plan B. We
Mhm.
just keep doing the same thing and hope we score goals. So I do have my concerns, and Fred does make a good point about you know, like you just mentioned with the WSL. I know in his first season we did get really close to doing it, and I didn't
Mhm.
expect that to happen, and we were just unlucky. And obviously we can't help having the injuries, and that really isn't Jonas's fault. But
Yeah.
like you said, the things like he can help, I think he could do better with. But yeah, I just think we need to have some success this season. I really hope that can happen. And I did want to ask you a bit about, Beth Mead and Viv and Leah, because I know Leah obviously is a bit injured at the moment, and Viv, is a little bit injured as well. But they've returned back, and I know Beth Mead made a return in the Aston Villa game, and she got an assist, and it was like she'd never been away. Like,
Yeah.
how important do you think these players are to this team?
Incredibly important. Not just for their talent and skill on the pitch, but I think, what essentially they're all Arsenal legends already, that kind of way.
Yeah,
I think what they bring to it's a relatively young squad as well. And I think what they really bring is that, the club culture, shall we say. They bring a lot to the table. I mean, I don't think I need to go into the numbers of Miedema. I mean, all-time WSL top scorer. Obviously, she's been moved back to a slightly deeper role, number 10. But we saw her in that position prior to her injury as well. So I believe that was kind of a
yeah,
tactical shift. And she's still getting goals and assists from there. So it's great to see. Beth Mead, like you said, I think it is almost as if she hasn't been away. She really has come back. Almost to the same level that she was before. And I think when you look at players coming back from major injuries like ACL, Leah, they've kind of had a few setbacks, shall we say, a few
yeah,
minor knocks from there on. But that's, that same happened to Alexi Putea at Barcelona as well. It's just one of those nasty injuries that I think once you do it, you're going to be a bit more cautious. You're going to be a bit more careful so
yeah.
you don't overstretch yourself and do the same thing again. But yeah, having them back is just phenomenal. Delighted to have them back. Still waiting to see Leah play in the Emirates Stadium, but hopefully we get to see that soon. Um, I don't think there's much I need to say on the importance of them. Really, it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's just so incredible to have them back. And I know with Leah, I can't remember which game it was, but I love that assist she did to Beth Mead, and I've watched that like 100 times. Like I just think like she just adds something completely different. And I know as well for the Lionesses,
Mhm.
they are a great team, without her as well. But when she's in the team, we're just so different and better. And I can't wait for a fully fit squad. And Novine Reuter as well. Obviously she probably won't get many minutes this season because it is quite a long injury, but I do think it would be really good to have her back, and she's just such a really big player. I just wanted to say hi to Niall. Hope you're well. Like and subscribe and share. Thank you, Niall. For me, Moore should move on and we get a Kim replacement. You know what I do worry? I don't agree with the first one, obviously. But the second one about Kim Little, I've noticed this a lot, that she's getting injured a lot, and I do worry about her because I do think it's coming to an end in a season or two. I do think next season could be her last, maybe, because I know in real life, however old she is, it's not really old, but when you're a
Mhm.
footballer and in your
Yeah.
30s, it is really old. So do you ever worry about, Kim retiring? Because I do all the time.
Same. No, I think about it quite a lot. And as you mentioned, yeah, she does pick up quite a lot of injuries, unfortunately. We saw towards the end of last season as well, she was out for a good chunk. She is so important. I don't think we play the same when
Yeah,
Kim's not there. And I think one thing to mention is, like you said, age isn't really her age is relatively young when you think outside of football, but she's been playing professional football since she was 16. And you have to consider, okay, what were the resources like, 10 years ago? They're definitely not where they are now. So I imagine that her body probably has taken a few more hits, a few more knocks, and that, to be honest, I don't really see women's footballers who have been playing at that level for so long being able to continue the same way that the men have, just to be completely honest, because I don't think the resources, the right research or anything was put into it to see, okay, how do we benefit, or how do we, I suppose, strengthen, condition the women's body to continue as long as they can, I mean, we see with the ACL injuries, they're so prominent, and there's still so little research that goes into it. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it probably will be coming towards the end of Kim Little's career. I do think, maybe another season or two, but again, you don't really want her to end on a bad note where she's injured for a whole season and not really get to enjoy her last seasons in football. So hopefully she can enjoy a spell of injury-free football before she does decide to retire. And I think she'd be an amazing person to get in on the back team, whatever it is, whether it's in a coaching role, whether it's in kind of like a fans engagement role, whatever it may be. I think there's no way that we can let her leave the club.
Yeah, I do think as well, like if we like say next season was her last one, or the season after, and we won the league for her, I think it would be exactly what she deserves, and I think the team obviously deserves that. So I do hope she can play for as long as possible, and I completely agree. I think she loves Arsenal so much. You can see that she's been here since she was so young, and I do feel like her body is sort of struggling now, but I do think we're at that stage where, like you said, we've got that squad depth. And, for me, I do want to talk about Leah Walty, because I just feel like, for me, like when she is out of this team, like we really struggle. Like I feel like in the midfield, we give the ball away a lot, and we do start to struggle. And I feel like now she really is getting like the credit she deserves for her performances. Like for you, what have you made of her so far at a time at Arsenal?
I love her. I'm a big fan. I think this season in particular, there's really been games where she's absolutely controlled and dominated the midfield. She does tend to sit a bit deeper, and from that you have Palova and Kim Little when they're playing, when they're fit, being super creative, and I think that gives us another extra layer of protection then. And it allows those players to push up when she's 33 is still young, but in terms of
Football, it's
football,
old, really.
I'm a massive Leah Walty fan. I think this season in particular, she's really getting her flowers, and she's well deserved. I think her and Wubben Moy, for me, have been standout players. I suppose standout players in the sense that they're so consistent week in, week out. You always know what you're getting when they play. And I think they've actually upped their own level this season in comparison to last. I think it's going to be very hard to replace Walty if she does end up picking up an injury. Hopefully she doesn't. Obviously, Cooney Cross has come in. She's still very young. She's still a bit not really as defensive, shall we say. I don't really know how to put that better than that, but she's not as solid defensively as Walty is. And I think that, as you said there, we don't play the same brand of football. We don't play the same style of football. We look a lot more disjointed in the midfield, which then obviously impacts the front line, the back line. So yeah, I think she's been one of our most valuable players this season for sure.
Oh, I love her. I think I do think now that she's really, like, in the last few seasons, like, you can tell how much she loves Arsenal, and I feel like she really feels at home here. So I feel like she is a good person to be around, especially like Leah Williamson was saying how supportive she's been, like, for her. So I just think she's just such a good person to have around the club. And I know someone mentioned about Palova, and I just wanted to kind of touch on her at the moment because first of all, we'll answer this question as well. Any chance for Palova playing on Sunday? I think it'll be interesting to see about the lineup, about what to expect after the international break, because I know McCabe went off injured. I think she'll be okay. I've not really looked at it, but I know Palova as well. I think something might have happened to her. But are you expecting to see her in the squad or starting for that game at the weekend?
Yeah, I think I just touch on McCabe there. We've seen her go off in the Champions League last season in a protective boot, and then she was back out the week after playing as
Scoring a
if
world beat Man City. Literally.
So I think come hail, rain or shine, Katie McCabe will be playing. If she's not, I think that's a massive, massive concern because we only really have two fullbacks at the moment who are fit and able to play. Katie McCabe being one of them. So I think if she is out, that does kind of leave
Yeah.
gaps then down the right hand side with Fox, because I believe she's still out with the US national team, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that would be a concern. But I think pretty high chance of her playing, and we shouldn't worry too much about that. Palova, to be honest, I haven't heard much about it since she was withdrawn from the Dutch national squad. I hope she plays. I really hope she plays. Hopefully it was more of a precautionary thing. I know it was the Nations League game, but I'm going to say something maybe unpopular. How important really is the Nations League? You know, for me, I think maybe it was a minor injury and it was more of a precautionary thing to keep her fit for the rest of the season. I'm not sure. I hope that we see her. But yeah, I can't really comment on that because I haven't really seen too much more since, found out she was withdrawn.
I don't think the injuries will be too serious. I know with McCabe, like, she's such a warrior. Like, I know she'll be okay. And we do have the squad now to kind of, get through that. And I did want to touch on Palova because I think last season we saw glimpses of what she could be like. I know this season she does start a lot of the games, which is what she deserves. And I just feel like for me, like, she really is so impressive to watch. Like, she's like a magician in that midfield, isn't she?
Absolutely. You know, we talk about players kind of lacking a bit of creativity. Maybe in some games, players are looking for crosses and we're just wasting opportunities, or we're playing backwards. And I do feel like if the ball gets to Palova, we might have a spark of, genius. The way she turns on the ball, the way she can hold players up, the way that she can kind of create space for her teammates. I think that's such a valuable skill that she has that's really, really, really benefiting all of the team, not just her. I think she's been phenomenal. Last season, I was so impressed with her. She came in, I think, what is she, 22, 23? So young, so impressive. She's almost a guaranteed starter at this stage. After 12 months at the club at such a young age, in a very mature midfield with Valti and Kim Little, she's well able to, to hold her own there. And I think what she offers is really, really different. She's a very creative player. She's not afraid to take chances when some of the players are playing a bit more cautiously. I think what she offers to the team is really invaluable, particularly against the low block, because she's the player who can kind of pull things apart, create a bit of space, and get opportunities going. There was one game in particular, I can't remember who it was against now, but she did really well inside the box to hold up play, and I think Beth Mead scored off the back of it, if I'm remembering correctly. But she's such an exciting young player to watch, and you can only imagine how much better she's going to be in a season or 2 seasons time when she has a bit more experience behind her, hopefully European football as well next season. So I think, like you said, she's just a joy to watch, and I'm always delighted when I see her on the pitch.
Yeah, I think this season's definitely been a really good season for her, and she's really developing in that role, like you've said. And I'm really excited to see more of her this season. And I did want to go on now to talk a bit about our new signings, and because I feel like our signings have really done really well. And we know Alessia Russo, Cooney Cross. I think Emily Fox for me has really blown me away because obviously I didn't actually know a lot about her. I've watched some of her clips of what she's done, but it feels like she's been here for years. And Alessia Russo as well has done really well. But for you, like, regarding the league, do you think these have been the right signings for the season?
Absolutely. I think outfield signings have been really, really good. I think, another player who in particular has been a standout to me has been Lacasse. I mean, incredible player. I'm pretty similar to you. Like, I didn't know too much about the players coming from different leagues. So from the American leagues, for example, I didn't watch that much of them. Or from European leagues as well. I don't have, there's not enough time in the week, unfortunately, to watch all the football. But I've been so impressed. And like you, Emily Fox, I think she's come in and she's absolutely made the position her own. Obviously, right back at the start of the season was a bit of a sticky situation. We had Maritz playing there. Then we had Katie McCabe also, who isn't, she does well on the right, but I think she's more suited to the left, particularly in an attacking sense. So I think Emily Fox coming in has, the few games that she's played, there's only been a handful, but she's really, really, really impressed with what she's done, getting assists already. I think she's exactly what we need. In terms of Russo, I think, yes. Did I expect a little bit more? Maybe. I don't know if that's harsh, but I think it's taken her a bit longer to kind of settle in than anticipated. Obviously, I think a player like that coming in a, who's known in the league, who's known, obviously scoring against us last season, there's a bit more pressure on her to perform to the level that we're used to seeing her perform at. But again, she's done many wonderful things in an Arsenal jersey that have been exceptional. What other players do we have? Yeah, Cooney Cross, I think, excited to see a bit more of her. Leah Codina as well. She played really, really well in the United game. Again, a very young player, and I think she will only get better with a bit more experience. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, Amanda Illerstedt. I think she probably needs a little bit more time, which might sound a bit crazy, but the level that we saw her play at for Sweden, well, yeah, Sweden, I can't say I watched too much of her when she was at PSG. But yeah, the level that she was playing at there, I think we still need to kind of get her up to that stage. But I think it's a bit difficult when she's playing in a back four that's chopping and changing week in, week out. And, she's starting some weeks, she's not starting other weeks. So yeah, overall, I think, honestly, I can't really complain with the signings that we've got so far this season. I think they've been really, really good. They've really improved the squad depth. And yeah, I think the challenge now is trying to find the best way to incorporate all the players to make sure that they're getting, the best out of it and stuff. Because I do think players like Frida Maanum, she hasn't really seen enough football this, in my opinion, this season. Lacasse, I think there's games she could have started over forward as well. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's been super, super, super beneficial, obviously, to have all the squad depth, but without European football, then the challenge comes: how do we retain this talent? How do we retain the players? If next season we get another injury crisis or whatever it may be,
Yeah, I think the Russo one's interesting because I think I kind of get that as well because like I've watched her for a long time. I know the Lionesses, but I watched her before that at United for a few years, and I know last season I think she was absolutely incredible. And I do think for us, like someone mentioned, Ed Kingsley here about her hold up play. It's a really important thing she has in her style of play and when she plays. But I think the goals thing, like I think it's good that she can turn up against Chelsea and score incredible goals. And it is sometimes that she'll either score a few goals in one game or the next game her hold up play will kind of be more important than scoring. So I think I get what people say because I think she's done really well, but I suppose we probably expected a few more goals. But I do think she has been really good, and I really do like her here at Arsenal. And I think the signings have been, good. I know Cooney Cross as well. I like her. I think she's got so much potential. She's got like a lot of talent when she's playing football. You can see that, and I think a lot of time. I think the players need more time because it's their first season playing together, and a lot of them haven't really played. I know that obviously Beth Mead, Russo, Leah Williamson, Ruben Moy have obviously played the Lionesses together, but a lot of them haven't ever played together. So I feel like we're getting used to some, different type of partnerships on the pitch as well. So that is an interesting one. And I did want to ask you a bit about Stina Blackstenius because for me, obviously the squad we have is amazing, but there are times where I'm thinking, Jonas, why don't you just play her? Because she really is incredible against those top four teams. And when we need that moment of magic or when we need someone to just finish, she is really good at that. And I know she has came on off the bench at times and really helped us. But why do you feel like, Jonas hasn't started to play? Do you think it's because we've obviously brought Russo in and it's hard to, not play her?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting one because I think when you look at her stats, I think Blackstenius actually has a better goal per minute ratio, or whatever it's whatever it's called. She's probably, I think it's hard because I do believe that I feel Russo and Blackstenius are quite similar in their goal scoring abilities. I think if they're both playing the same position, they're both playing the same game, you're going to see that they miss similar chances, that they're not as clinical as maybe, Bunny Shaw or
Yeah.
Daly or whoever it may be. You know, they're not really super clinical finishers, let's be honest. But what they do offer is both players offer something very, very different. Russo, with the hold of play, she's very good. She's really strong. She gets everyone involved. She can, you know, create things like that. Whereas Blackstenius, what she's very good at is kind of running between the lines and breaking away. The issue with Blackstenius for me is that without VAR in the game is another issue as well. She's often caught offside, really, really, really tight decisions. And I think that might be an issue for Jonas, because at least with Alessia Russo, the game continues. We have possession and we stay in control. Whereas with Blackstenius, there's, you know, I want to say a third of her runs will end up with the offside flag going up, because, you know, I don't know if she's timing it so well that it's so tight, or maybe, you know, the defense that we're going up against are being so well organized that it looks offside, whatever it may be. I think maybe that might be an issue as well. That might be one of the contributing factors. But I do agree. I think Blackstenius has been pretty hard done by in terms of the lack of game time that she's gotten. Again, we have to consider, in terms of how many games we have this season, it's not as many as last season. Out of the FA Cup already, no Champions League football at all. So the game time is pretty limited when we consider how many players we have in the squad now versus last season. Overall, I think it's a great problem to have two really good strikers. And I'm much happier to be here as opposed to going, okay, who are we going to start in the you know, as our striker this week. I just think that maybe it depends on the opposition. You know, if it's somebody who's playing the low block, in that instance, maybe it's better to have Blackstenius there, keep her deep, and then when the ball goes through, you know, play those long balls over the top that she can run onto. That would personally be my preference. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. And like I said, I'm not complaining about the situation that we're in. I find it really, really good. But it's definitely an interesting point. And I do wonder, you know, will she be happy to continue kind of as the second best on the bench? Because I think she's too good for that role.
Yeah, I agree. I find her so underrated. Like, I know she went through that phase it might have been last season or the season before, where she was just really struggling to score goals, and then something changed and she just got her confidence back. And I loved that goal. I think it was against United where Viv put her through, and I just thought she had the confidence to score that goal. And I just really like her, but I also know it is a good problem to have, and I'd rather us have this problem than any of the other ones. Stina outscores Russo. I think it's hard. I think they're both different in a way, but they're both really good. We do tend to share the goals around the team, but I do concede that an odd and out goal scorer will be a good addition. Yes, definitely.
For sure.
Like button. Yeah, so I do agree. I think it's a good problem to have, but I do think they are a bit different to each other. So it's probably, you know, they add different things when they come into the team, and it is good to have that. And I did want to touch a bit about the Spurs game. Someone thinks they'll beat us 3-0. I hope not, honestly. I can't feel that. But I know last time we played the Emirates, it was a really difficult game. We did lose that, and it was like they've never really beaten us. Like for however long I've supported Arsenal, I've not known Tottenham to beat us. I'm used to us kind of, you know, scoring a lot of goals by them, but we know that is the competitiveness of the WSL, and that's how it's changing. But for you, how are you feeling like going to the game? Do you expect it to be a difficult one, or do you feel like we can easily beat them?
Yeah, I think I personally find going into games off the back of international breaks, it's really hard to know what to expect. I think the Chelsea game was very similar. I think it was the first game back after an international break, and I was very unsure. I really couldn't tell if it was going to be, you know, good, bad, how it was going to go. This one, I do feel quite confident going into it based on how we played against Liverpool after our first defeat against them. You know, we had a very comprehensive 2-0 win over them. Then when we played away against them, this game is going to be in the Emirates, hopefully another sold out Emirates. If anyone can go to the game, please do. Why not? Support the girls. So yeah, I do feel pretty confident about it. I think we will have learned from our mistakes as we've done against other teams. Big concerns for me will be, of course, okay, it's been a busy international break. You know, most players play in 2 games, a lot of traveling. You know, while England and Ireland were playing, and Austria as well were playing friendlies, there was Nations League games going on. The Australian girls were qualifying for the Olympics. So there's been a lot going on over the break that I think, players will come back maybe a little bit fatigued. Maybe we won't be as sharp as we should be, but as long as we defend well and the crowd is there, the crowd's behind the team, I think that we should come away with the 3 points. If we don't, then I think, we can kiss goodbye to the to the title hopes that we have. I think dropping 6 points to Spurs in one season should never be allowed to happen. But I'm quietly confident about it. I think it does depend, though, how the players come back and how well conditioned they are going into the game.
Yeah, I think for me, like, we can't lose this game, and I do feel like our games that we have left in WSL, I feel like we do have to win them all, and that might be difficult, because of how competitive it is, and injuries could happen. We never know what can happen, but I do feel relieved so far that we've not really had any major injuries, because last season it was really, I think for the players it would have been draining, and for us, like. I think for me, when Leah Williamson missed out the World Cup, I just felt heartbroken, because like she's such an important player for the team, and I just feel like for the Lionesses as well, she's just like, she deserves to be in the World Cup, and unfortunately, she wasn't meant to be there, and I do feel as though she'll be back soon in the team. But someone mentioned, I know we've spoken about Zinsberger, and I forgot to mention, I did want to talk about it, is that for me, I really like Sabrina, and I know against United at the start of the season, she did make that mistake, but I do really feel like, I feel more comfortable like when she's playing. I think Zinsberger is really good, with the saves that she makes. But I do feel like at times when we're playing out from the back, we can be a little bit shaky and can give the ball away. And there are moments where I think she could do better. And I know the Lionesses did play against her, and it's quite, I looked at that, and as much as I love the Lionesses and want them to do well, it was quite, bad, the goals that, she did concede as well. But for you, do you like Sabrina, and would you like her as our number one?
Yeah, I think she's definitely earned a chance. I just want to say as well, like, I don't think Zinsberger is a bad goalkeeper. Like, that's something that's really, really important. Like, she has the most consecutive clean sheets in the WSL. She's not a bad goalkeeper. I think she's just going through a bad spell. She obviously clearly lacks confidence. Again, I don't think the changing back four in front of her helps at all. I think a lot of the criticism that she has come under, it could probably be looked at and say, okay, but the back four, they look shaky, this, that, the other. There have been a few instances, however, where she could have done better and should have done better. Yeah, I think Sabrina definitely deserves a chance against United. The only 2 WSL starts she's had have both been against United. Okay, we conceded 3 goals in total, but one of them was a bit of a blunder. In the draw, we came away with 1 point. And again, the last game that we played against them, 3-1, look, it wasn't the end of the world. A clean sheet would have been nice, but what can you do?
Yeah.
And I think why not start her? I think she definitely deserves to have a string of games to kind of build up a bit of confidence herself, because with all love and respect to Zinsberger, I just don't think it's working right now at the moment. Again, not a bad goalkeeper. I don't want to sit here and some of the things that have been said online about her, I've really kind of disgusted me, that kind of way.
Yeah.
And I think, there's no denying that she's obviously having a bad period, but she is objectively a very good goalkeeper. So I think people need to kind of remember that all players are humans as well.
I think, I do think people, like, we've watched her for a long time, Arsenal, and we know that she is a really good goalkeeper. But I do think, like, when you're confident, you do have some shaky moments, which she is having and which she has had in the past. And we've seen that, she's gone out of that phase and she can get through it, like Stina did. And I do think she's a good goalkeeper. But I know when we were linked to Mary Earps, I did think it did surprise me that Zinsberger did extend at Arsenal, and I think it's obviously good to have other options like Sabrina. And I think with Mary Earps, I think it's more of a dream that I don't see really happening anytime soon. Like, I think for me, I mean, obviously, I don't really watch other leagues, because, like you said, it's hard to find the time. But I do believe that Mary Earps is probably the best keeper in the world. I mean, it'd be great to have her, but I just think it's going to be, hard. But I think at the moment we do need to support Zinsberger, and I
Mhm.
think I hope she has a good game at the weekend. I mean, it'd be interesting to see, what sort of lineup we're going to play. Like, I know injuries, we've got a few. I don't really expect to see Leah or Viv, maybe on the bench, it depends. I mean, probably Leah might be still injured, but for
Mhm.
you, like, what sort of lineup do you reckon, like, what players do you reckon will be starting?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, in terms of back, I personally would like to see D'Angelo start in goal.
Yeah.
Is she away with Canada? I can't remember if that's the case or not. If it is, we'll obviously have Zinsberger in goal.
Yeah.
Um, Back four, yeah, I think we're probably going to have to play Katie on the right if Fox is still away. I can't remember exactly how, because there's a competition going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So I can't really remember if Fox is still away or she's back. But yeah, I think Katie probably on the right, Catley on the left. In terms of centre back pairings, I'd probably go with Ilestad and Wubben Moy.
Yeah.
I think as much as impressed as I was with Codina in the other game, I do think that Ilestad is a little bit more, maybe has a bit more experience, shall we say, that could be definitely useful in a game like this. Midfield, would love to have Palova if she's fit. Fingers crossed there on that one. Valti and Little for me are untouchable at the moment. And then in terms of front three, I think it'll be interesting to see if Ford starts. Again, that's the issue with Catley as well. They've both been away traveling with the Australian national team. Long distances as well. Initially they were in Dubai, I think, and then they were in, I can't even remember where, but going down to Australia to play their final game. That was yesterday or whatever it was. It's a lot of traveling to do, and I think it's something that needs to be considered as well. So whether Ford starts, I'm not sure. I think Catley will start because of the issues that we have with fullbacks at the moment, lack of. Ford probably on the left if she's fitting up for it, then Mead on the right, and then yeah, I think it kind of depends on how we want to play, whether we want to start Russo and then bring on Blackstenius as we did in the United game. That seemed to work. Why not try that again? Because I think what Blackstenius does is she causes a bit of a nightmare for defenders who've been trying to keep close to Russo all game, and then all of a sudden these balls are coming through the lines, and Blackstenius is all she's running, and whether she scores or not is another question. But yeah, I think that's probably the lineup that I'd like to see. So that kind of 4-3-3, solid midfield,
Yeah.
solid enough defense, and then depending on players' fitness and stuff, yeah, I think Ford on the left.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I would completely go with that lineup. I mean, it'll be interesting because, like you said, it's a bit of a weird situation where it's been the international break. You don't really know how the players are feeling in it. It might, be a difficult game, but I do think, it being at the Emirates and hoping that they do get 60,000 fans. I mean, 58. I know at the moment that's absolutely incredible, but I think that gives the team a big confidence boost that they want to, have a big performance for their fans. So I do feel, really hopeful that we can win. And someone said hope Mary Earps next summer. I mean, it'll be interesting. I do see Mary Earps going abroad to, especially in the Champions League, because I think for me with United at the moment, I don't really see them winning the league in the next season or two. I think it's hard because there's so many teams up there,
Yeah.
and Chelsea, Sam Kerr's out injured, but they've brought someone else in, and if that happened with United, they probably don't have that luxury to do that. So, but yeah, I completely agree. I do think Mary will be a really good signing. And someone said Ford has been poor recently. I think she's actually been okay this season. I do really like her. I know in the North London derby, she absolutely turns up and gives it to Spurs. So I think it would be really good to see her. But I know obviously with Australia playing and stuff, they might be a bit tired. So I think it will all depend on how they're all feeling, really. And I did want to ask you whether or not, like, for you, I know the season hasn't ended yet, and things could change at the end. But for you at this moment in time, who would you say has been your player of the season?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think, I mean, I'm obviously very biased and I love Katie McCabe and she could do no wrong. um, um, I think that's probably the obvious choice. I think she's super consistent. She plays week in, week out. We definitely missed her in the West Ham game. Obviously, she picked up that suspension with her yellow card, 5 yellow cards in the season.
She loves the
maybe.
yellow card.
I am a big fan of her. I think she's really solid. But I think, I'm going to go back to two players that I've already mentioned, Wubben Moy and Leah Valti. Yeah, I think Wubben Moy has really, really stepped up. And she's really, it was a big, big ask for her to kind of fill the role of Leah Williamson. She's a big leader, a big presence within that back line. And obviously, you have to remember as well, Raffaele left as well this summer. So our centre back pairing was completely torn apart. And, there was a big, big, big boots to fill there. And I think she's done it really, really well. She's looked so composed. She's really made that position her own, I think. And I think it's going to be really interesting when Leah is back fully fit to see what is the centre back pairing. Because at the moment, I think it's probably, with Moy, Illerstedt, and then Williamson. And it's going to be interesting to see how they line up. And obviously, Leah Valti, as we mentioned as well earlier, I think she's dropping 7, 8 out of 10 performances week in, week out. And when she's not playing, we really miss her presence in the team. So yeah, they're probably my two standout players. I mean, kind of want to say Beth as well, like all these different players coming back. But I know you asked for one and I gave you 3, but
it's really difficult because I know a lot of people are saying Lottie, and I do think that, because I think for me, like a few seasons back, I think she wasn't really the player she is now. I think she was really good, but I feel like now, like, she doesn't have any mistakes, and I know a few seasons back she might have had the odd mistake that Gabrielle has for the men's team. So I just feel like she's really, really improved, and I think for the Lionesses as well, it's going to give Sarina a bit of a headache, because you can't. For me, I look at that and I think, how can you not play her? Because she's been phenomenal, and like someone Fred said here, she is undroppable. You can't really afford to do that. So it's really good to see her, and obviously her playing at the Emirates as a childhood Arsenal fan, it's so lovely to see as well. And I hope Leah Williamson can get that chance. And I think for me, like, I'm going to go with 2 as well. I think I'd probably go Lottie and Leah Valti, because I just think Leah this season has been really incredible. I just feel like we mentioned before, when she was injured, it's really affected, how we play our midfield. I just feel like we're really not the same. So I just feel like she is a really incredible player to have at Arsenal, and you hope we can win. Look at the team we have now, like some of the older players that have stayed with us. They really do deserve to win, league titles and, FA Cups as well. So I do hope that can happen. I'm really hoping we can. And I've really enjoyed having you on today. And before you do go, I just wanted you to tell people a bit about your channel. I mean, I know you do Spotify and you do podcasts on there. So do you want to just tell people what it is you do and how they can find you?
Absolutely, yeah. So I have a podcast. It's called Ladies in Red, an Arsenal Women's Podcast. It is on Spotify. I think it's on all podcasting platforms, so you can have a listen to it there. I'm also on Twitter. Lauren D2710 is my handle there. So whenever I post anything, you'll be able to find it there. But basically, it is just a little podcast about the women's team, kind of looking at games, results. Very similar to what we did here today, looking in depth at the players, how they've got on the season, news. I'll obviously release one next week for the West Ham game and have a look at the international break, because it's really hard to follow that. Just to give a quick summary of that, and that's kind of what I do there. So
yeah, please do check it out, and have put your channel your Spotify stuff in the title. So please do go over and check that out. And I've really enjoyed having you on today, and we'll definitely have to do this soon. Maybe at the end of the season we could do something, or because I've really enjoyed it, and I've really enjoyed you guys asking us questions as well. It's been lovely to see you guys in the chat, and thank you all for joining us today. I had so much fun. This absolutely flew by. Please do hit the like button, do subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Thank you so much.